I just wonder, is there enough time for Phoenix in particular to build the sort of chemistry that you need to win a title? Like I'm trying to think of, there's definitely nothing in recent memory where someone, number one, a swing piece like KD doesn't get traded every trade deadline. But when has a team ever made a trade for a KD like guy, let's say a top 15 guy, and just been able to implement them, build chemistry, and then go on to have playoff success? It would be the first time, right?
95 Rockets is probably the closest. Like, depending on what you think of Drexler at that point in his career.
Yeah.
But again, it's like the sample size of MVP level players don't get traded in season, so it's sort of like it's a parallel to the discussion of okay, the Suns can't win because no team's ever done this. Well, the Nuggets can't win because no team with a center defensively as questionable as Jokic. Okay, but none of those guys have been Nikola Jokic, so it's like we're off the map regardless here, and I'm not sure how much that sort of past precedent really has to say about the situation we find ourselves in.
I would actually equate this more to the Pau Gasol trade, who recently got his jersey retired in LA. I think that's the kind of deal. Now, he's not, obviously KD's a different level of player than Pau, but that was the piece that pushed the Lakers getting into the finals that year. And they were a middling team at that point. I've always kind of thought this trade had more Pau feelings to me than anything else with that. I'll say this though about KD, and this is kind of the thing here. I'm all about chemistry, continuity, all of that matters. KD is the most pliable, easiest dude to plug in. And that's really a credit to him too. Like, just look at it this way. In the first game, it looked like they already had something, right? And it was Charlotte. I get all that. But even the first couple, like, we felt confident with everything that they had, the flowing that they had going, and everything about that. That's a credit to KD being able to just slide right in and get into the spots for the team and everything that goes with it. So for me, it sucks. And I think it is a setback for the Suns, depending on how long KD is going to be out. But I don't know how much of a setback. Other teams, it's a massive problem. The Mavs trying to figure out Luka and Kyrie together, Luka being out, really hurts the team because that's going to take longer to figure out in that instance. And I think that's kind of the difference in those scenarios.
What's like the chef's knife version of a Swiss Army knife? Like, a Swiss Army knife is like a little pocket, it's pretty cheap. It can do all these different things though.
But it's not good at any one thing.
Yeah, but Durant is that, but like,
yeah,
the like best ever Swiss Army knife.
Yeah,
like, this is
right.
the elite.
Like, basically,
elite.
like any skill set you can think of aside from if you actually need someone to do like point guard things. Like, I think that's the only like offensive initiator. Like, KD can be an offensive initiator if he is your offense. He's not necessarily the guy who's going to like dime people up all the time and stuff like that. So other than that, like, anything you need him to do, he can do. And so that's why it becomes like the chemistry becomes less of a thing. It's sort of like, as long as everyone else is filling the things they need to do, because they're more limited, they're already doing the things they can do. Like Mo said, that just makes it a little easier. It's easier with KD than it would be. Like, the bigger worry there is more his conditioning than the integration.
Although, again, he has, in his career, has tended to come back and be about 100% when he's on the court. I mean, he apparently keeps himself in pretty good shape. I mean, definitely stays light, which is important for a guy his size. But, one of the things I think with KD that kind of gets lost in the shuffle because of like the physical stuff with him stands out, being 7 feet tall, being able to handle like that. But he's a high IQ guy. He and his passing comes from that IQ instead of being more like a point guard where he's, pounding the leather off the ball or running pick and roll. A lot of his passes are just, make a quick decision with it, or his arms are incredibly long. And you see him throw some of these passes that I just don't think most guards can do. Right. Yeah. It's almost like, I'm not going to compare it to Jokic because the style is different, but it's similar. You've got this, this 7 foot sort of field of reference there. And then the long arms, he's able to throw these passes over the top. And I think throwing weak side corner passes, I mean, he's right up there with Jokic. He's really, really talented. So yeah, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about him physically as long as he's going to be on the court. It's just how, what's the ankle going to keep him out? How long is the ankle going to keep him out? Because if he has to miss the rest of the regular season, that cuts their chances in the playoffs just because they don't have the reps. No matter how good he is, and maybe he's just the ultimate rising tide on that team because the talent level is already so high. But I worry about chemistry. We talk about this with the Clippers a lot, but those guys, they play a more individual style of basketball. So maybe the chemistry is even more important for them. But I do think with some of the complicated pick and roll schemes that they're going to want to get into in the playoffs, they need KD out there for the reps.
The other mild worry is even if he's able to get back on the court and there is some lingering effects, is they need, like, the offense is one thing. They need, like, in the past, Durant has been an all-world defender in the playoffs. He's been like, elite rim protector, has guarded the ball, has done all that. This team is going to need that from him at some point. And if the ankle is still tender, if it compromises his lateral movement, if it compromises his ability to recover and contest shots at the rim, I think that is going to be a huge detriment to them.
And we should also mention they can still fall in the standings. They're only 3 games above Golden State to have home court in that series, and so on. There was a chance for a while they could climb. We thought maybe it's possibly as high as 2 because nobody but Jay King believes in the Kings. And I thought that was an important, kind of thing there. And now it kind of changes the complexion a little bit in the standings with just how long is he out and how that, again, changes that whole musical chairs of the standings.
Yeah, I mean, and they're only a couple of games outside of the 2 seed. And they're still a decent basketball team without Kevin Durant. So they could move up while he's out, All right. So that's kind of the West picture. And the injuries are sort of coloring everything right now.